Hi, I'm Vicki Negvesky, and I currently work in the Regulatory Affairs Department in a chemical company. But coming back into the workforce after being off for many years was a challenge, and I was very grateful that during the last 2 years I've taken several classes from Life Impact. I've actually taken 5 classes: the Understanding Others by Understanding Yourself, Unlocking Your Passion, Purpose, and Destiny, Soul Awakening, Emotional Intelligence, and Impact Shift, finally. And these classes all together brought about a significant transformation in my life. I work in the trucking industry and with compliance, and when I worked with this one truck driver, he had received a violation from an inspector, but the violation wasn't fair. It was an unjust call. He was basically being given something that he shouldn't have been given in terms of a violation. And I went and talked to my manager about it, and she said, well, nobody's ever gotten a violation removed before. You know, we've tried, it doesn't work, you really can't do it. And I said, well, will you let me try? So I was taking the class, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna just give this a try. So I went and I approached the supervisor of the inspectors in this particular state, called them on the phone and spoke to them about the situation. And their initial response was, well, I have to talk to the inspector, I can't comment on it. And then after they talked, and we talked several emails and several phone calls, and he began being defensive and saying, you know, my inspector's not lying, and my inspector's saying this, and that was the initial response. And as we kept working through it and finally got to the point where I said, do you want me to share with you what the driver actually wrote from that situation and what actually happened that day? And as I began to share with him what actually happened, and this was like 2 months later, we've been trying to work through it, he came to a point where he said, yes, I'm going to remove that violation, and I'll remove it this afternoon. And he said, I just want to thank you for bringing this to my attention, because I would have had no idea what was going on in my organization if you hadn't said something. And then it just even surprised me more, because he said, if you ever need anything, call me and I'll be glad to help you. And it just blew me away that not only was I able to get the violation removed, the person that shouldn't have had something in the company shouldn't have had something on our record that wasn't right. So I was doing my job, and I was able to do something that wasn't able to be done at my company before. But also I did it while actually building a relationship with someone who should have been on the opposite side. And to me, that's what it's all about, is building and reconciling and keeping relationships, building relationships as you get your work done. And that's been tremendous for me. It's just made a world of difference. On a personal note, when I first heard about the Impact Shift, so I had taken 4 classes from Dr. McCrae and from Paula, one from Paula, the EQ class. And when I heard about Impact Shift and that they were having an information session on it, I went to the session, and I went to the session to find out about it because I figured I might run into other people who may want to know about the class. So I had no intention of taking the class. I was just coming to find out so that when I met people I could say, oh, you should take Impact Shift with Dr. McCrae. And basically that was my reason. But as I sat there and I started listening to people's stories, and I heard the personal transformation of a number of individuals that I had seen, and knew to some extent some of them, and I was amazed at what had happened in their lives. So that really intrigued me. And then as I was sitting there, I literally felt the Lord tell me that if I took it, that His kingdom would be released in and through my life. And He reminded me of the pearl that's hidden in a field, and said, if you find that pearl, you'll go and you sell everything you have to buy the field, because then you'll get that pearl. And literally that's what I felt as these people were sharing their transformational stories. And by the end of the presentation, I knew I was taking the class. And so at the end, I did, and my concern was, was it going to be expensive? That was my initial concern. And what I found out was, I signed up for it. I didn't care how much it was. I was like, I'm taking it because I really knew something was going to happen in my life. And literally at the point where I took it, I only had contact with one of my 3 teenage children. I could only talk to one of them. And by the end of the class, one of my teenage children, who I had not spoken to in 2 years, called me right before the last class and said, Mom, please come get me. And I literally went out to get my daughter 3 days later, and 2 weeks later she was coming back and living with me in Arizona. And it was a it was a tremendously difficult thing to do, and I know I never would have had the emotional strength or the wisdom or the capacity even to do that had I not taken this class. So to me, it's priceless. How do you put a value on your family? And it's about a year later now, and I now am speaking to my third child. So miracles do happen. And the classes that I took and the experiences I went through really prepared me for who I am today and helped me to be able to do what I've done. And I'm really grateful. So if you're wondering if you should take Impact Shift, I would say it's well worth your investment of your time, your money. It's an investment that you'll never regret. It'll change your life, and it truly is worth it, both in every way, whether it's for your business, for personal life, family, relationships. You know, there's tremendous benefit to taking the class in all areas of your life.